Do I have a soul? And if I do, where is it? How can I connect to it? How can I fulfill its potential, live my life by it? So many people have this question. In fact, most people in Western culture believe they have a soul. But who actually knows what it is? So I just had a talk with Kabbalist Dr. Michael Laitman exactly about this topic. He answered the questions from the depths of his spiritual wisdom and practice, and the answers he gave were anything but typical. Take a look. What is the soul? Do we have a soul?
Yes. It doesn't exist anywhere or in anyone, but it can. If a person acquires the desire to bestow, to give, to love, to really love, regardless of himself, above himself, this inclination is called the soul.
Where is our soul?
It clothes in a person's desires. It's a new desire that a person gradually builds inside himself. The wisdom of Kabbalah is a method of how to build the soul, of better put, how to acquire the soul, and then a person feels that he has the desire to bestow, to give, to love.
Why is that called a soul? Is it a desire?
The soul is one of the spiritual degrees. There's the degree of binah, of bestowal, the beginning of love.
Is it a spiritual level that can be acquired? How can I
Yes.
acquire it?
By being in a special atmosphere, in a special group, learning a special technique of how to rise above one's own ego, and to relate to others not out of my own ego, out of my nature, but above it.
What is the ego? What's its connection to the soul?
The ego is who we are by nature. This is what we're born with, this is how we develop, and it determines everything that we do in life, and accompanies us and guides us in everything in life. Whereas when we acquire a different, opposite nature that's above this, one of bestowal and love to others, which is unrelated to ourselves, that's outside of us, and we have no such examples in this world, then by that we acquire the so-called soul.
There's a belief that the soul is eternal. Is that true?
Yes. The soul is eternal. If a person acquires the ability to love and to bestow to others plenty and abundance, then that which he acquires is eternal, it stays with him, and it remains with him. In life and after life, it becomes his. By this he acquires an eternal life.
Why is there such a perception that different people have different souls? Some are big souls, some are old souls.
It's all a lie. That's unrelated to the truth. This is how people would like for things to be.
Are there differences between our souls?
Yes, everyone has a soul of their own, but each and every soul, when we acquire this quality of loving and bestowing good onto others, then we do it by a special method, where we have to use special forces that are hidden in nature, and then we build inside us the ability to bestow good onto others. That's called the soul.
So what you're saying is we have to discover our soul and what it is.
We have to discover it, and eventually, after all of our incarnations, we reach a state where, yes, each of us will acquire a soul of their own.
Many people say that they feel a deep loneliness that comes from the soul. Is this something that our soul is yearning for?
We are lonely, even though that we have relatives, parents, later family and children. We understand that all these things come and go. And once a person passes away from this world, he feels that actually he's on his own. And this is how we really all are. And therefore, the feeling of loneliness is something that's with us all the time. Sometimes we can suppress it, forget about it, but actually, it's a feeling that's always with us. And it's a result of all of us being a part of the same mechanism, of the same system. And we grew apart, so much so that we reject and hate and don't want each other. And this feeling, when it awakens, it actually comes in order to bring us back to connection. Only by the correct method of connection, by coming closer to each other, can we get rid of the feeling of loneliness.
Is there a connection between this feeling and my soul?
Yes, if I acquire the soul, then I no longer feel lonely. I feel that I'm connected to all the people in the world and also to the general force of nature.
What is this connection that you describe, a soulful connection?
It means to be as one man and one heart, love another as thyself.
You know, some people say they want to live their life from their soul, to be loyal to their souls. What do you think of that?
They don't understand what it means. They mean their egoistic will to receive.
If we go by the true form of the soul as you describe it, what will our life look like?
The soul is our good and nice attitude toward others. This is actually what the soul is, an inclination to love, to connect with others. This is the soul.
A lot of people think that if they isolate themselves, then they'll discover their soul. What do you think about that?
Untrue. To the contrary, it only makes them more proud, isolated. They grow apart from everyone. It's completely unrelated to the soul.
So discovering the soul is actually through contact with
Through
others?
contact with others, yes.
Why through this contact with others?
Because in my attitude toward others, by developing it to such an extent where I want everything to their benefit, once I start caring for the other more than I care for myself, it's called the birth of the soul.
What is revealed there?
The attitude toward others. And through this attitude toward others, where I rise above myself, my ego, then I start seeing and understanding and feeling a second nature, a nature which is entirely in the light of the soul, of giving, love. It's completely different.
Is that a different concept?
Yes.
There are many questions about having a soulmate. Is there such a thing as souls that have a special connection between them?
Of course there is, and it's true and correct, but for this, everyone has to have a soul. In order to find my soulmate. If we're talking about ordinary people, then it says about them, all are deemed as beasts, that none of them have a soul, but they're all like animals. And therefore, there's nothing to look for here. I have to search for a person who wants to acquire their soul like I want to acquire mine, and then we help each other. In this, we can help each other, and by that, we will also become soulmates, so to speak. Then, it'll really be a connection between the souls, special, close souls.
So there's no connection?
It's something that you have to build. Anyone can do it with whoever they want.
I'd like to understand this better. So there's no connection between the physical fit and the fit between two people's souls?
None whatsoever. To the contrary, they can be very far from one another, very different in opinions, religion, beliefs, and so on, in anything and everything.
So two people, even if they're totally different from one another, if they choose to develop their soul together, then
they reach a state where their souls become connected.
And will they feel love and closeness towards one another?
They'll feel love and connection toward everyone anyway. We don't have to search for corporeal love and spiritual love. These two things are unrelated.
What is spiritual love?
Spiritual love is when there's a connection between the souls. And corporeal love is when we have an egoistic bodily connection.
What does this connection between two souls actually feel like?
Let's first acquire the soul.
Okay.
Mutual bestowal, mutual love, care.
Is this something that exists on our level, or is it something higher than that?
Usually on a higher level,
Is it above space and time?
above all corporeal discernment.
Is it necessary for us to heal our soul? There is such a perception that a soul might be broken or even shattered. Is this true?
Our soul is really broken, meaning that the desire to love others is broken, the desire to connect with others is broken, and therefore we have to heal it. True. But this is something that we gradually acquire through a special technique called the Wisdom of Kabbalah.
Who's the doctor and what's the treatment?
People that have already attained this, for example, our organization, in which there are several specialists that are experienced in this realm, you can turn to us and join. This is what we do. This is actually what we're meant for, to help people cure and reveal their soul and feel how they connect with the general soul.
So you're saying that my soul is broken because it's not connected to this collective soul?
Right.
What is this general soul?
In Hebrew, it's called Adam, and we're called Bnei Adam, literally meaning parts of that soul.
Can you explain?
Each of us is an individual soul, and this individual soul is called a part of Adam, and the general soul, where we all have to connect into one system, is called Adam.
What is this general soul called Adam? Where is it?
It's not where. There's no such imaginary place as where. But all of us, in our will to bestow, have to connect mutually to the one mutual desire to bestow that will be called the system of Adam.
Is this a kind of plane of intentions, of desires?
True, a plane of intentions and desires.
And the person who develops their soul begins to grasp this?
Yeah, feel, grasp, really live accordingly.
Is this why they say that the soul is eternal?
It's eternal because it's above the limitations of this world of time, space, and motion. Therefore, it's eternal.
Many feel that they are a lost soul, a soul that's lost their connection to others. Can anyone find their way home back to this connection?
These are imprecise words because no one actually has a soul until they acquire the power of bestowal and love. But it's possible to say that that lack of the correct power of connection with others is called the broken soul.
Where do you think all these concepts come from?
From the wisdom of Kabbalah, from when it was discovered 6,000 years ago.
They discovered their soul, they knew that it exists.
They wrote books about it. Since then and until now, many books. And this is how it goes. The only problem is that people that don't understand it and read about it, they think that they understand something. And then, even though that they don't know how wrong they really are, still they continue, and this is also what they tell others.
So maybe give us a tip for the spiritual seeker who wishes to discover their soul.
Don't do it on your own. Go to our site and start learning, studying seriously. It's a serious matter. It's not for amateurs. And it's better to rely on people who have experience and the knowledge and even a diploma. Because there has to be some kind of order in these things.
You used to be a scientist. Can you tell us a little bit about the process that you went through when you began to research your soul?
From the question about what is the meaning of life, I came to my first profession, which is biocybernetics. It's about the systems of the human body. I thought that through this, I will be able to more deeply understand. No one studied or studies about the soul directly, but through the body's systems, maybe it's possible to reach this. And this is how I went to the university. This is what I studied. I graduated from university in the 1970s. And I saw that I have no idea what the soul is. And I kept on searching until I found my teacher 9 years later. Only in 1979 did I find my teacher, And I studied with him until 1991 when he passed away, and then I continued on my own. I founded groups of students all around the world and a big site so that anyone who'd like to study and yearns for it the way I did could do it more easily.
How did the skepticism that comes with scientific research align with your spiritual search?
I didn't relate it to spirituality. I simply understood that people are limited by their five senses, and they examine everything according to instruments that they build for these five senses, according to these five senses. And if I want to talk about something else which is beyond the five senses, because we ourselves, we limit the universe, nature, in and by our five senses, but it's incorrect. How can I know that that's all there is if I'll have additional senses? And then I started looking. How is it really possible to develop our senses and discover new senses in order to discover a broader world this way? Until I discovered that this is actually what the wisdom of Kabbalah is about.
What does that mean? Did you discover a new sense?
This is actually what we call the soul, what we talked about. This new sense is called the soul. It's a sense in which I see everything the way it is outside of me, not inside of me. But because it's based not on the method of reception, but on the method of bestowal, the soul.
You mean that it's above self-interest?
Outside of the desire to receive pleasure, the desire to receive, to know, the desire for everything. Everything that I have to rise above it, and then I discover what's outside of me.
And there is a method here that helps you do this gradually, right?
Absolutely. And in our times, it's open for everyone.
So for our last question, I'd like to ask you, how can we live our lives so that our soul will be truly happy?
First of all, we have to reveal our soul. It doesn't exist in anyone unless they worked at it first. A person has to discover his soul and try and work with it, learn how to open it and manage it, how through it to receive the new life, the new world that opens up to him in the force of bestowal and love that he didn't have up until now at all. And when he will see the new world, the spiritual world, or what we call the upper world, then he'll see what to do next. It's like being born anew. And then he'll know what's going on with him, what man is altogether, that it's not about living in our protein body that lives and dies, that this is what we relate our life to, but we live a complete and eternal life, where everything depends on the extent to which we acquire our soul.
So you're giving a real emphasis here on the fact that we have our body naturally, we got it naturally, but the soul is something that we have to work for.
Our body is something that we have received temporarily in order to acquire the soul and to continue spiritual life with it.
So what you're saying is that discovering our soul is actually our destiny, it's the direction we're moving into and the thing that will truly make us happy.
Right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laitman. Thank you to everyone who is watching, and we'll see you next time.